What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Flat Earth Vegan Goy, Iron Realm Media, and Sleeping Warrior, otherwise known as Adam and Anthony.
Good morning.
Hello, hello.
Yo, yo.
Afternoon.
Hello. Any signs of curvature, gentlemen?
No.
Definitely not near Miles the Liar Davis.
Hello, how you doing? Who's that? That's Travis, isn't it? Hey, Travis. Can't hear you, but good stuff anyway. So, yeah, straight on to curvature then. So, apparently some hills or bridges obstructing other hills or bridges or lining up with them in some strange way proves that the Earth is curved, right?
Basically I was free and he was free, and I was happy to talk to him, just kill a bit of time before your show, and I thought it'll be done within an hour. And basically I presented numerous issues that I had with him, or rather with his observation. But the first one I had to address was why it was that he referred to Adam Meakin as dishonest, because I felt that even if Adam perhaps might have made a mistake, he has to be intentionally trying to deceive somebody to be dishonest. And Miles tried to reassert his position by saying that he might not be dishonest himself, but his argument is dishonest. And I'm like, well, that still requires the guilty mind of trying to deceive people. And he wouldn't have it. So in the end, ultimately, I squeezed like the weakest possible retraction out of him you could ever imagine, just to be able to move on the point. But I don't accept that Adam is dishonest or being dishonest, because I don't think it's subject to his person. I think the point he makes is the point that's either right or wrong. And if you can demonstrate that it's wrong, then, you know, go ahead, be my guest. But to claim that it's dishonest it's a point that the point that was being made is devoid of the person. It's to do with the point being made. And I think Adam's bloody right. I think that the angular size is an issue, because, I mean, Adam, do you want to tell us what you actually did with that angular size calculator? Because he criticised you for comparing it to the picture by getting the base of the mountains in the wrong place.
Hey, Owen.
Hello.
The way I understood it was that you didn't even use the base of the thing. You calculated its angular size without reference to the picture in the first place.
Yeah, I did say this, so maybe it just needed a bit of clarity. So the purpose of me doing the rankings was that you can't really extrapolate any real numbers out of the picture. It's too difficult. But what we could do is visually rank in the picture. So that was the method to compare the two models and how they work. So what I did in terms of the angular size was to just take Miles's data that he quoted of distance and height to produce the angular size figures, and they are exactly what they are. Do you know what I mean? They are calculated on the data he provided. Now, the other thing I did was then do the calculations based on the topography of it, or the geometry of it, if those heights, peaks, were distributed not on a flat plane but on a ball, and that obviously has a consequence to their relative heights. I did those adjustments, as you could see, and then did the angular size calculations again. Now, that seems the correct methodology for what he was doing. The only criticism I can see is that he thinks that you shouldn't take into account that things get smaller when viewing.
Outrageous.
So it's you know, I mean, that would seem the point of contention, that he's questioning whether when using
whether
a
or not
photograph,
perspective's real,
which is an observation, whether
having a
you
laugh.
apply.
His question is whether or not perspective's real. That's basically what you're saying. I don't care how you boil it down. That's
No. Let's be clear. What he's saying is that when you were doing your calculations, your angular size calculations, his position is that you misidentified the base of the mountain. Now, I don't believe that you actually identified the base of the mountain at all.
No. The angular size calculations were taken from the data that Miles calculated.
Morning, gentlemen.
That's right, yeah.
Hey,
but they
Jose.
weren't identified on the picture as the base, which is what his complaint against you was, that he asserted was dishonest. And I had to correct him with that and retract that point. But I don't think he understands that you didn't do what he says you did.
No, there isn't a mathematical comparison between the angular size data and the image itself. The comparison is the rank order comparison, which is the only practical way of doing it, certainly for that image that I could see. So it was the only way to take the relevant data, which does take into account the fact that things get smaller as they go into the distance. So that was the only way. Now, if Miles has got a better way that he thinks of mathematically doing stuff, that's fine. I would listen to that criticism, but I would have to disagree with his criticism if he thinks that you shouldn't, when analysing a photograph, take into account that things get smaller in the distance. I mean, that just seems a nonsensical argument.
Well, his position is that he did take that into account when he did the Walter Bistlin curve calculator. And I said, well, what's the angular size of the mountain? And he said, there you have it on screen. And I was like, yeah, but what's its angular size? He said, you're looking at it. And I was like, yeah, I'm looking at a representation of. I want to know what its actual size is, the calculation for it. Can you demonstrate it? And he couldn't do it. But he wouldn't accept that it was a failing because he said that it was demonstrated visually.
Hey, hold on a second, Anthony. Hey, UKPI, how you doing? Good to have you.
Hello? Speak
Hello.
up. Oh. Did somebody get sniped?
Do we need to get rid of him?
Speak up now.
Oh, I can join now, can I?
Hey, is that Dan? Dan Winfield?
You can
Hello?
join anytime, sir, if there's a gap.
I've tried several times. I just watched you on the Miles Davies thing,
Oh, yeah.
and I thought it was quite amusing.
Okay.
I thought you got kind of trashed big time.
Really? Oh, any particular reason? Have you got anything to justify that perception?
Any particular reason? Because I come from that neck of the woods, so I know exactly what and where Miles was when he took that video.
Okay, but how does that affect the perception of being crashed?
Because you talked about there being a mile between the bridges, each bridge.
No, that's not what I said.
It is exactly what you said.
I said there's a mile.
So that you should have seen the curve, and no, there is 0.9 miles.
Yeah, there's a mile between the
South Queensferry is only about a mile long.
Yeah, well, that's
And
what Anthony said, wasn't it? It was between 39 and 40.
And all three bridges are within that very, very small town. The very first bridge, the first bridge that you see is a huge metal structure, which is the rail bridge, but it's quite a narrow structure and formed in a completely different way to the two other road bridges, which were behind. So what Riley was saying was you should be able to see kind of the bottom of each bridge, and that's just so not true.
Well, I demonstrated it using a round mile on the curvature calculator, and it said that there was a difference of accumulated curve over the 29th to the 30th mile of 40 feet. And
You
we
were
should see that.
using Google Earth, which brings into account the curvature, which you seem to disbelieve. So why were you using Google Earth?
No, you've mistaken. I wasn't using Google Earth for this point. The point I was making was that if the photograph is taken on a round sphere, then the three bridges at the distance of 29 to 30 miles should have an accumulated curve difference of 40 feet. And we don't see evidence of that in the picture.
So you're saying you weren't using Google Earth to mention a turbine and this, that, and the other?
Well, are we jumping topics now, or are we getting closure on the point you were making about the bridges?
I'm bringing them all together in the one.
Let's not do it with a
One
sneeze. Let's not do it with a sneeze. Let's do it with systematic, like working our way through the procedure. Right. Your first point is that the bridges were misrepresented, and I demonstrated that between the 29th and the 30th mile there should be at least 40 feet of curvature, but the photograph doesn't show any evidence of any curvature. How was that wrong?
Between the bridges, it's just under a mile.
Right. So I used a mile. What's wrong with that?
Oh, so there's going to be curve between in that mile, is there?
Between the 29th mile and the 30th mile, it's not 8 inches.
There's going to be curve between the three bridges.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
when they're only a mile apart,
But
you're going to see that curve.
it's not the first mile, it's the accumulation of the curvature between the 29th mile and the 30th mile.
Hold on, can I just get a bit of clarity? So, are you suggesting that because there's 0.9 of a mile and Anthony used a mile, are you quibbling over this 500 feet between the bridges in terms of the accumulated drop?
Let's not just. I won't quibble about that. No.
But that was
Let's
that not
call
what
it
you?
a mile.
Sorry, I didn't know.
Do we see the curve? Do we
just
see
let me
any
get to the end
kind
of my
curve
point. Sorry, bear with me. Sorry, you don't need to talk all over me. I hadn't quite finished talking. So the only reason I know that they're 0.9 of a mile is because you brought it up. I didn't know that till you said it. So you're now saying, well, I'm not quibbling about it. Is it because this minor difference between 29 and 30 miles and 29 and 29.9 miles isn't actually really worth worrying about at all?
Well, no, let's just call it a mile.
Well, that's what he did do, and you quibbled about it. That's my point.
What Riley was implying during that conversation was there was a mile between each bridge. But actually, there's less than a mile between the three bridges.
I see. Were you under the impression there was a mile between each bridge, Anthony?
Do you want to present my screen?
Sure.
So what's difficult with this claim that he's making against me is that the bridges are not parallel. They're on an angle. So am I presenting now, Nath?
Yeah,
I can't see anything.
You'll have to press the thumbprint at the bottom of the screen.
All right.
Can you now see it?
Yeah.
So if you can see that at its worst, the distance between them is 1.3 miles. At its least, the distance between them is about 1.7 of a mile. But we're talking about the middle of the bridge. So just as a rough approximation, without getting too technical or too over critical, it's 1.05 miles. I don't really see the point.
There's that dog again.
I don't really see a point because you can argue semantics over the distance, but it's still about a mile, and that's what I demonstrated, the 29th to the 30th mile.
That was your whole argument, was the fact that you should actually see the curve in the bridge. Why do we see a 4 100-foot mountain or hill, if you like,
It wasn't my whole
below
argument.
below the stanchion. Yet
I'm-
we still see that.
It wasn't my whole point. You're mistaken. I brought up 5 points, 4 of which are itemized on screen, and I can't remember the 5th one. And this was just one of several points. So my whole argument didn't revolve around this. And if that's your perception, perhaps you didn't see the hangout or all of it.
But did Miles not debunk every single one?
No. He hasn't considered collimation because he didn't know what collimation was before we spoke about it, and he dismissed it with a hand wave whilst we were doing the hangout. Miles' claim of 500 meters is exaggerated. It's 300 to 400, and I'll give him the 400, but 400 to 500 is a significant difference. It's actually the 300, but so what? I'll give him the 400, but it's still exaggerated, and it's misrepresenting the audience to think that there's a bigger disparity than what there actually is. But if you exaggerate your claim, generally speaking, that generally makes your claim fallacious. The bridges don't line up on a ball, but they clearly line up in the picture. And there isn't an accurate linear relationship between the effects of refraction with 2 objects over such a big distance, as I demonstrated. There was a 5th one as well, and I can't remember what it was now. I'll have to think to put it in there. But it wasn't all. He didn't debunk any of these claims. He just handwave dismissed them.
I don't think it was the fact that he dismissed them. I think that you talked over him when he was trying to explain that what you should be seeing is quite a big hill above the stanchion of the bridge in the background. Yet
Correct.
what you were seeing was a 400-meter bloody object lower than a 210 object.
So let's be clear, right? Your claim was that didn't Miles debunk all of the points that you made? Well, he didn't even know about collimation, and he handwave dismissed it. That's not debunking. That's just disagreeing with no evidence to support your position.
But you did go on to talk about theodolites and the sort.
That's the collimation point.
And
That point was not debunked.
not understanding that theodolites actually do angles and not levels. You'll need a dummy level to get a level for that.
Yeah, but
in civil engineering, you
you've
don't use a theodolite.
You've misunderstood my point about collimation, and he did not respond. He does not have any evidence to support the perception that it has no effect. So that's not debunked.
Okay.
Moving to the second point, he claims that the mountains are in excess of 500 meters, but they're actually 3, maybe 4, but not 5. Now that is an exaggeration.
No, the tallest one was, I think, 510, 520, I think.
Yeah, but that's not the one that's behind the stanchion of the bridge, which is what we're referencing. So that is exaggeration. He didn't debunk that.
And all the hills in the background.
Yeah, but we're not talking about all of the hills. We're talking about
each one is at different heights. Well, you can take a line right across, and you'll see the larger ones compared to the smaller ones. The one directly where you're talking about,
which is his claim,
might have been 400. Might have been 400, but
well,
the tallest one was over 500.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the tallest one. We're talking about the one relative to this stanchion that he identifies in his video, but he's claiming it's 500 plus meters, but it's either 3 or 4. I'll give him 4 just for the sake of moving on. It's definitely not 5. Now, the problem is that makes it an exaggeration and a misrepresentation, and he didn't debunk that.
You used Google Earth to basically show you exactly the peaks of each hill, so you should know that one of them was by far over 500 meters.
That's not true.
The lowest one. Yeah,
hang on, stop.
Yeah.
Let me just.
Anthony, mate, I'm going to do one because I feel like shit. Anthony,
yeah.
Cheers for defending my honour, sir, or at least my integrity. I appreciate that. It's a weak argument, but cheers for standing up for that, mate. I do appreciate it. I'll catch up with you guys later, and I'm going to do a little bit of further stats on that data, just do some rank correlation coefficients to just kind of exemplify the point of how skewed the observation is to what it should be on a ball in terms of the effect of relative distance on curvature. I'll try and get it done the next day or so, mate. But
Cool.
take it easy, guys.
All right, Ruff. Laters.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks a million.
Right. So, with regards to your claim that the mountains are actually 500, let's just address that, because I did go through this on Miles' Hangout. So I'm assuming that you didn't actually pay attention. The highest possible mountain along the line of sight that we're talking about is the highest possible is around about, zoom in a little bit so we can get it shown. As I move up and down here, you can see he's not going to see any of these peaks here because they're too far away and they're of the same size. They're obstructed by this mountain. And that's only 347. And that's if you can see that one at all. So it's like, well, if you're going to say that in somehow these are 500 feet, I'll say no, they're not. The highest possible that you can see is about 350.
He named each peak.
Yeah, and I said that he's not seeing that far.
Going by Peak Finder.
Yeah,
going by Peak Finder.
Yeah, going by, it doesn't mean he's seeing that far. The highest he can see the highest he can see is 300 to 400 feet. And he hasn't been able to do that because he doesn't know how deep.
Why can't he see that far? Why can't he see that far?
Atmospheric moisture, vapor,
compact
humidity,
camera.
pollution.
I think he did this over a 2-day period, didn't he? I'm sure he said that he tried it over several days and got a great. I mean, it is some distance from Traprain Law to the bridges, let alone to the background.
That's right.
That is a massive, massive difference.
Well, it's 30 miles, and it's the same distance as my Hoy Lake to Blackpool Tower observation, which wasn't behind the curve of the Earth. So I'm familiar with the distance.
Hey,
right. Pete. Well, and he proved that the hills went behind something that is so much smaller. 210 to the top of the crossing bridge.
Right, but the point is that he's claiming that the land at on the horizon is greater than 500. He says that he's referring to some other mountains that are not relevant, but his claim is that the vertical part of the bridge is 210 meters. The height of the hills is greater than 500, which is at its absolute peak. But the problem is when he's referencing the stanchion, he's referencing the land behind it, and that's what his comparison is to. Now, this land behind it, according to what Google Earth reliably tells us, apparently, is no higher than 350 meters. But the problem is, if that's 350 meters behind, and this is 210, it isn't greater than 500 meters, which is the way he represents his claim. And that isn't debunked, mate. That's the
one on your left. The one on your left-hand side, the highest one on your left-hand side, if you pull back to the Miles' actual photograph, the one on the left-hand side is over 500.
Sorry, we're back to the beginning. Yeah. We've just gone through this twice. I mean, my patience is wearing a bit thin for it. He's already explained twice. That's not the hill he is referencing. Who cares what the other hill is? That's not the one he's using to represent his argument with.
So you're just going to pick and choose hills?
Oh, sorry. No. He's representing the difference. You're now talking over me.
Height.
Listen, he's made it twice. I'm now making this point a third time for you. So what's the issue? He's not referencing the hill on the far left, is he?
What he's doing is exaggerating the overall height of the biggest possible hill to somehow represent the claim that he is making, which the stanchion of the bridge is somehow too big or too small relative to the land behind it. But the problem is he's put that number in there referencing this claim, but actually he's referencing the mountain over here somewhere, which has got nothing to do with the claim he's making. So yeah, you can argue for him that there is a mountain there at some distance of around about that height, but the claim is to do with this stanchion and the height of the horizon. So wherever you pick this, you're not going to be able to argue that the height of the horizon over there, it's relative to the height that's behind it, because that's the line of sight that he's using as his reference. That's my point. It's exaggerated.
Anyway, Anthony, that's the fourth time this point's been made. So I'm happy to move on, regardless of UKPI's decision to distract and defend this misrepresentation, which is what it is.
So, and the final point that I made was that there's not a linear relationship between the effects of the atmosphere the way he thinks there is. So just because you can draw a straight line through the top of this to the horizon there, I demonstrated that Skunk Bay, that the thing in the middle ground and the thing in the background are independent of each other, and he didn't accept it. So I then presented Soundley's work, which showed the same thing, and he doesn't want to accept that either. But that doesn't make it debunked. So going back to your original assertion that Miles smacked my ass or whatever it was that he said, he hasn't debunked any of these points. He's just hand-waved dismissed them and disagreed. Well, he's entitled to do that. But that doesn't make it debunked. Debunked means proved wrong, and he hasn't done that. He's just dismissed it. Well, that's okay. He can do that. That's the whole point of what he's going to try and defend his position. But for you to assert that I got my ass kicked and then come on and try and re-have the hangout, I'm not being funny, but you're going to get your ass kicked easily because I've just had the hangout and I know what I'm talking about. 30 miles is not that far.
It's quite a distance.
No, do you want me to show you what 30 miles is in real world? I'll show you a 30 miles that's completely inconsistent with this.
Are you going to show me on Google? Are you going to show me on Google Earth?
No,
because that takes into account the curve, which you keep on using.
Here's an observation.
Sorry, hold on. Let's just stick to that. That was another point he made before you move on. Yes, fine, Anthony. I'll stick it up on screen for the audience.
So this is another 30-mile observation, and it's supposed to be a 510-foot tower. And it's supposed to be virtually completely gone by the curvature of the Earth. So this is 30 miles. It's the same distance as what the claim of miles is. But Mick West himself says that that's how much should be seen at 30 miles. So you're saying how far away these towers are, and they're really far, these bridges. But actually, in the context, I've got direct evidence of the same distance, and that thing is what we actually see. And that's not the same as what we should be seeing. So if you're going to claim that the curvature of the Earth or that it's such a far distance and it's very impressive and that miles prove this or that, I'm going to say no, because even 30 miles away, this is only 400 feet tall, right? In terms of meters, that's what? Is it 160 or something like that, meters? So it's much smaller than the bridges that he's looking at, and that's what it's supposed to be if we live on a sphere at 30 miles away. But that's what we actually see. And this light at the top, this light at the front here is on it's on the ballroom tower, which is like 2 stories high. But we also see the roller coaster on the promenade, and that's the light on top of the roller coaster, and that's the light on top of the mirror ball, which is only 40 feet above the road. So if you're going to claim that
what about the light below it?
So the tower's about 120 meters. Coincidentally, the amount that Miles exaggerated the differential between these hills.
What about the light that we can't see?
What light that we can't see?
Oh, here we go. Sorry. Right. So the distance isn't massive, and the differential represented by Miles was misrepresentative of the actual observation that he was using as an example. You've also got a second issue, it would seem, with Google. So let's move on to your issue with Google.
I don't have any issue with Google, but you seem to keep on using Google Earth to debunk your own claim, really, which is a bit silly because Google uses the globe and has a curve, and you use.
Do you have a globe model that we
hold
can
on,
use?
Hold on, Jose. Can you let him finish? Can you let him finish?
Why do you keep on doing that? Now, I don't mean to seem disrespectful, but why do you keep on using the globe to try and make your point?
I wasn't making any point. I was challenging the point that Miles was making, and I was saying that Miles was getting things wrong. Now, you think that Miles has debunked me at all stages. No, Miles hasn't debunked anything. Miles has just hand-waved.
Hold on, Anthony. You don't need to. Right. Okay, so his answer is he's not making any claims. He's debunking the assertions made by Miles Davis. Okay?
Yep.
So back to your original assertion that Miles had debunked all my points. He didn't debunk any of them. He just hand-waved dismissed them, and that's not the same thing. So I'll invite you to retract your comments and just leave, because at this point you look like
I look like a what?
A dick.
All right.
Do you want to
Is
retract
that
your
when I
statement?
meant? Why would I do that?
Because Miles didn't debunk anything. You asserted that Miles debunked all of my arguments, and he didn't. He hand-wave dismissed them and didn't know about one of them.
Is that in the same way as you keep on using theodolites to?
Oh, we're on to a new subject. Okay.
To mention
New
to
subject.
bring
Why are we
some sort
changing
of
the subject?
level.
Why are you changing the
when-
subject? Why are you changing the subject? So you've come on and made some assertions. Obviously, for the person that finds those assertions to be
I'm backing
incorrect,
myself
hadn't
up.
finished talking. So for the person whose assertions you have tried to claim are incorrect, have now, for the second time, first time you watched and obviously didn't pay enough attention, now it's been demonstrated to you personally, and upon doing so you want to change the subject to something else.
I guess you've not.
Excuse me.
Watched it,
So,
Nathan.
Anthony has politely
I guess
asked
you
you,
haven't seen it.
while you talk all over me
Oh.
because you're unbelievably rude, he's politely asked you to retract your bullshit comments that were incorrect, not move on to theodolites.
Theodolites were mentioned during the.
Yes, we
that
can move
debate
on
last week.
once you concede.
Once I concede.
The point
Yeah.
we're making here, the point we're talking about, is that your claim was that I got debunked on all my points. And I've just demonstrated to you that a hand-wave dismissal was his position, and that's not debunking.
Yes, and you tried to use civil engineering equipment.
Oh, we're doing it
to
again, are
back
we?
yourself
So,
up.
no, listen
back
up.
yourself up.
He wants you to retract your bullshit. He's annoyed. He's been very courteous. I'm getting annoyed on his behalf because you've made a load of statements that were wrong. He's then proven them to be wrong and you want to move on to something else. So, that's
And
not going to happen until you go,
I've
oh,
been
my
wrong.
bad. Yeah, I thought Miles had done a good job, when in fact he hadn't. He had hand-wave dismissed them, I reasserted his crappy points that he gave a hand-wave dismissal to, and I've now been shown to be incorrect as well. That's what we're waiting for. A polite gentleman would do so. It seems you're rude and would rather talk over me when I point this out and move on to a different subject, which we may well do once you concede.
You ask for people to give you evidence, and you decline when the evidence is
No. Stop it. Your point was that I was debunked by Miles on all of my points that I made. I've just gone through them one by one with you and demonstrated that he didn't debunk any of them. He just dismissed them. That's not the same as debunking. And I'm asking you to acknowledge that and retract what you said, or just leave because you are beginning to look like a dick. That's what I said.
That's amongst those options, sir, is not move on to theodolites. It's be a man. Concede your nonsense, and then we'll move on.
Right, we'll just move on then.
No, you'll concede, be a man. Now I'll give you a different option. You'll be a man and concede your nonsense, or I'll kick you out, because that isn't one of the options moving on until you concede, asshole.
That's swearing, isn't it?
Yeah, you're starting to test my patience. You've made a load of
Yeah, but I-
assertions. You just want to move on to another one, so we all forget about the nonsense you've come in and spewed. Well, we're not.
I thought
We're
we
not
weren't
tolerating
allowed
it.
to
I
swear.
haven't finished speaking. We're not tolerating it. He's politely asked you twice to retract your nonsense so we can move on. Why are you dragging this out? Why are you making yourself
What?
seem so pathetic? It seems sad that you can't
What?
just concede you're wrong.
Right, Nathan? Politely ask me then.
I have done numerous times.
I'm asking Nathan to politely
Why
ask
the
me.
hell would I ask you for anything? I'm not the one you've come in and made a load of assertions about. Anthony has asked you twice.
You're the one that keeps on harping on about do this, do that. I'm just saying move on.
Yeah, and I'm saying you can't move on until such time as you retract your claim that Miles the Liar Davis debunked all my points, because that wasn't true. I realise that you've now left the group, but thank you very much for your stay in Hotel Nathan. Do come again.
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
These people are pathetic. It
Yep.
makes my blood boil. Why can't they just concede? I was wrong. I said you'd got smashed. I should have read his comment from the chat. I just watched Anthony get his ass handed to him. Right, okay. Well, I want to come on the panel and rub it in his face. Okay, here's the link. Just didn't know to refresh when the show starts, then come in claiming that I couldn't give you the link. Again, assumptive asshole. No, the link goes out when the show goes live, and you obviously tuned in before it was live and didn't refresh your page. So I had to tell you to refresh your page, and then you got instantly in, like a dick, making your assertions that you were blocked or some shite. Wrong, just like you were wrong about Anthony. And it took us, how long's it been? About 30 minutes dragging you through it, kicking and screaming while you make the same nonsense assertions that Miles made, because you're stupid and believe people like Miles in the face of evidence. Even when it's presented to you, you don't want to accept it and concede, you want to move on. Well, no, cognitive dissonance. Accept that you are incorrect. Miles has actually provided us with an exceptional flat earth proof. He keeps telling you morons that it's a globe proof, and you keep believing him. Hence, Anthony has to dismantle your assertions in front of a couple of hundred people while you go, no, let's move on. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. I see you in my comments, UKPI. Now I know how pathetic you are. I'll be damn sure to point that out next time you comment. You're a pathetic individual. A man would have conceded. You are a mouse.
Well, let's be clear as well that what they're doing actually is, although UKPI, who I've never heard of, don't know him, never spoke to him, what he has to do is repackage the hangout that Miles had, because he needs to try and make people think that in some way I had A, B, or C. But the fact remains that there were numerous issues with Miles's claim, mainly exaggeration, that don't stack up. But if you come and repackage what was just we had the hangout about and try and make people think that in some way I was bum smacked, well, I'm not going to let you do that, because I wasn't bum smacked. But you weren't man enough to admit that you might have that wrong. So it's either an intentional slur or you are a dick. It's one or the other.
Yeah, he just wants to rattle his way through all his crap points until he gets a gotcha that he thinks he's won a point on, so he can labour that indefinitely. And every point that you've smashed it on, you'll just get, well, right, well, let's move on to the next one. Sod that, after two of them, it's like, no, well, why aren't you conceding? Why are you in the chat saying that you just watched Anthony have his ass handed to him? No, what you actually watched was a deceitful piece of crap called Miles the Liar Davis, deceitfully weaseling his way around his deceptive globe, in quotes, proof, which it isn't. It's a flat earth proof. But he assumed when he made his little video that we'd all forgotten about the fact that his calculator excludes perspective entirely, not to mention the fact that it's hijacked perspective in the first place, begs the question, assumes the radius. It just beggars belief that he's even done this. The person getting his ass handed to him is Miles. He's getting a proper good pasting. If you can't recognise that UKPI, it is a demonstration of your low intelligence, because Miles is getting creamed.
I'm just grateful that he joined and I had the time to respond to his point, because by doing that, it demonstrates exactly what they've got to do. At all costs, they've got to try and portray or proclaim that they had a victory, and they definitely did not. Miles didn't know about collimation. The bridges can't line up. There's not a linear function or a linear relationship between the object in the foreground and the background. And there was a couple of points, I can't remember what they were now, but the point is, he has to claim that this is a loss on my part, and it simply isn't. So thanks for joining. We've just had the opportunity to smack your ass. So do come again.
Now I'm going to smack it once more, because the ultimate truth here is that at some stage or another, both Anthony and UKPI expressed what we should or should not see. And why should or shouldn't we see this? Oh, because the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator says we should or shouldn't see any of this nonsense. It's just begging the question and assuming your outcome. So telling me that an assumption of the radius of Earth plugged into a mathematical calculation dictates whether or not something's a bloody hologram is an outrage. Whether or not something should be physically positioned somewhere. Nonsense. Models are not reality.
Happy Thanksgiving. Could everyone on the panel say one thing they're thankful for?
PMARS.
My family. Life in general.
Flat plane. No gravity.
That's beautiful, man.
Life, people don't respect it enough. People don't get out enough. I was watching JLB's video last night that he released, and he was explaining that a lot of people, hey Zinder, won't get out enough. They literally sat in front of their computers all day, watching TV, moaning about how it's poison, and still consuming it. And I completely and totally agree. He also said, you know, one of the things he started doing a few years ago was going out and listening to podcasts whilst walking and getting some exercise and some sun. And it's like, he says it, and to me it's like, obviously, you've got to get out of the house every day. People don't. And it shocks me. You know, people are seething in their own little stewing horribleness looking at a computer screen all day. You know, I can bear to do it for a few hours a day, but obviously I'm a YouTuber. I enjoy making videos, and I enjoy watching a video occasionally on YouTube. But on the whole, I'll go out to the park, I'll take my kid to a class, I'll go out and get sunshine, I'm not in the here all the time. But most people who are on the internet are consumed with it. They're on Facebook 9-10 times a day, checking in, checking statuses. You just think, wow, if you're obsessed with it, then it's unhealthy for you. I mean, his examples included food and various other things, but in terms of the poison that is taking in constant propaganda from TV and just beggars belief that people do it all day long. You know, I don't even have a TV.
Well, all you have to do is sacrifice your sanity. You can do it too, Nathan.
Well, just get out of the house a bit, get some sunshine. Minimum hour a day. Get out there. If it's pouring with rain, obviously that's a different story. It isn't pouring with rain most days. Even if it is, most people think, oh, it's raining, and you go out and it's not really that bad. I say that because I have to.
Island weather. Yeah.
Say again,
Here
Cindy.
right now it's... Yeah.
Say again, Zinder.
Sorry, I have really bad internet connection. So here right now, it's always shiny. I mean, in the winter, the sun shines and it's warm. In the summer, the same. So pretty nice. But I think the next holidays will be at a place where it's a little colder than
You still in Thailand, Zinder?
Yeah.
Zinder, you still in Thailand?
Well, they have really bad Wi-Fi. Yeah, they have really bad Wi-Fi here in Bangkok.
Fair enough. Last time we spoke.
I hear like every second word you guys say.
No, it's good. Your connection's not terrible for us. Last time we spoke, you said that you'd been out and spoken to a few people and said, "What do you think about flat Earth?" And a few had given you indifferent looks. Some had been in disgust with you. Have you since been out and asked them what they thought about globe Earth?
No, I didn't get the chance to do it. So, but right now in Bangkok, I'm going to stay a few more days, and I can ask people about globe Earth, what they think about it. So I will have to find people who can speak English quite well enough to express their views. And I think I will do so in terms of like going in a bar and start the conversation with people and then go on to globe Earth, not like, hey guys, what do you think about globe Earth? Like with the microphone in the hand, right? It doesn't work like that.
Have you been to any
I'm going to try.
Have you been to any of the street
different
markets?
approach.
Have you been to any of the nighttime street markets that they've got there?
Yeah, I've already been on the nighttime street market. We have been on the walking streets in Pattaya, which kind of astonished me how open they sell prostitution, because it's even illegal, I heard, but people don't even look at it. And there I could talk to some people, but I was too drunk to talk about globe Earth. I didn't even think about it.
That's fair enough. I mean, the markets, and if you want to include it, the drugs and prostitution, it is, in the most literal sense, the black market. So when you go out there, you can see on the stalls. I haven't been, but I've seen videos about it where they show literally people picking up great big swords and things and all sorts of crazy weaponry that you can just buy on the street. You know, normally you'd be on, underground internet to do it.
It's crazy, I know. I mean, how openly they sell it, right? And everyone can see it. Like, they don't care because I think they gave enough money to the police so they could sell those things without anybody looking. Yeah. Great.
Love it. Actually get to see the black market, touch and taste and smell the black market. Love it.
Again, please?
I said the black market. You get to touch it, smell it, taste it, maybe even buy something.
Yeah, it's great. I don't think I would be able to buy something from there. I mean, I still have to bring it back to Zurich, right, on the airport. So depends what weapons, whether or not. Otherwise, I'm going to have a problem. I think sorry to change the subject, but I think in future, I think it's much more fun to be a globe earther on this panel. So maybe I should behave like one in future. I mean, maybe I could even learn things.
It's much more fun being a little kid on the average than it is being an adult. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
because as a kid, you're not being forced to live in reality. You can live in your own dream world.
Do you know this from personal experience, Arwen?
Yes, I do.
I think the point or the correlation is that you're indoctrinated with this stuff from birth. So all of your cartoons as you're growing up have got, at least at a subliminal level, the idea of a sphere, Earth and space and various other things to do with evolution, dinosaurs especially. All of that stuff is given to you in a very impressionable part of your life. And if you can indoctrinate kids at an early enough age with the idea of something that is fantastic, just being benign and just as is, that's just your reality, then that'll stick with them for a long time. So what Zinder's kind of saying is it's much easier to regress to the fantastical sphere Earth paradigm because it is that of your indoctrination. It is that of your childhood. I look back on my ideas of heliocentricity with great fondness because I remember playing with space toys and thinking about space. You know, it was cool. That's what I did when I was a kid.
Yeah, I kind of meant on being a globe earther on this panel itself is much more fun because then you can like debate and like scream at each other and so on, right? Because as a flat earther, you can discuss things, of course, but many times you are going to agree with each other, and at some point you need someone who kind of doesn't agree with you and kind of challenges the things you say.
But Zinder, is that really fun though? Is it fun to come in here and get your arguments pretty much destroyed every day? If you're a glober, you know what I mean? Like you present the same arguments, and we all know how to destroy it. Like I don't see how that's fun for ballers.
Yeah,
you don't destroy any arguments. That's a joke. You just buy
this is. I just took the
words
out of my mouth.
P's
timing is excellent because what P took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say all they can do is deny and obfuscate. So if there's ever a hint that the audience might get the impression that we're smashing it and they've never got any comeback and their rebuttals are debunked, then someone like P comes along and says, "You don't have any arguments. You've never debunked anything. You've never shown us that this lighthouse on screen." Where P got kicked yesterday.
No, I didn't. I didn't because
before
if you can actually demonstrate
something before I've even finished the sentence, let's shut him up with my rumpus button and say this is where P got kicked yesterday. So P asserted yesterday that we had never shown that the sphere model has demonstrated something wasn't there. So there and then, just like UKPI, we took him through it live in front of a couple of hundred people, and at the end, P just rumpused. Didn't concede and say, "Oh yeah, I was wrong in my assertion that there's things that we see that we shouldn't see." He didn't do that. He just rumpused.
Prove it. You didn't prove it.
Yeah, we did.
You didn't.
Sorry.
If you can prove that, I think there are people that would be interested in it.
Hold on a second, P.
You should go talk to them.
Hold on, P, because you're now going to leave the audience with the impression that we didn't take you through it yesterday.
You had to kick me because you lost the argument.
We didn't lose the argument. You wouldn't concede.
That's why you kicked me off the hangout.
Yeah, because you wouldn't concede.
You lost the argument because if you can actually demonstrate it, you can see something that should be impossible to see on a sphere. You should bring that information to someone who would care about that. I think a lot of people would be interested in that, Nathan.
Yeah,
but you can't demonstrate it because it's not true.
No problem.
And you lost the argument because you can't prove that you see something that you can't see on a sphere. You've never proven that.
P,
okay,
are you
no
still
problem.
in this
Hold
world,
on, P.
Have you
P,
woken
if you can
up
actually
sleep?
prove that,
P,
go to
shut
the
up.
mainstream
Stop
media and prove
rumpusing
it.
the hangout. Right, okay, P. No
Did you
problem.
wake up
You
sleepwalking?
shut the fuck up.
No, he wants to get kicked. So, P, I've paused it on screen.
You're the asshole, Nathan.
Are you gonna cry now?
Oh, I see. So now the ad
cry
homs
now?
come. So what I was about to do, P, is exactly the same thing we did yesterday with you. Now, do you want to do that? We've got plenty of time on this show before I round out and ask everyone to subscribe to my second channel. So, should we do it again right now?
I'm up for it if P is.
Yeah, P. Gone very quiet.
You can't prove that you can see something on a sphere that you shouldn't be able to see. You've yet to
Okay.
demonstrate that.
We know
to
the
me.
assertion. We're asking if you want us to take you through it again, like we did yesterday, and you're denying. Our point, at the point that you did this, P, was where we were pointing out that people don't concede. They either rumpus or they want to move on. But your assertion yesterday was that this lighthouse, yeah, which is what we took you through, couldn't be seen on a sphere because there's a 170-foot wall of water obscuring your view of it on a sphere. If you beg the question and ask a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator how much should or shouldn't be seen. So if you beg the question, according to your model, you shouldn't see this lighthouse, P. We took you through it yesterday, P. Why did you rumpus again and fail to concede even though we've already done it?
So if you can actually demonstrate that, then go do it to someone
Okay,
that
let's do it.
understands this
Right,
stuff.
perfect. Thank you, P. Let's
Not,
do it again.
I don't even understand what you're talking about. You're speaking a different language to me.
Okay, do you know what a wall is?
Well, that's an interesting question.
It's not a
How
philosophical
could
question.
one define
It's
a
not
wall?
philosophical. It's very literal. Do you know what a wall is?
Have you heard about Plato's chicken?
See, this is the kind of obfuscation that we're dealing with. Yeah? We've taken him through it. When we say, let's do it again then, P, because you're denying it and obfuscating, he asks me about Plato when I try and put it in simple terms, having been told that I'm talking a different language. No, P. 170-foot wall obscuring your view of something else. That's what I'm talking about, not being able to see over that wall in your model when you beg the question and ask a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator how much of this lighthouse we should or shouldn't see, and the answer is none of it. There's a 170-foot wall in the way, blocking your view of it, according to your religious belief in a ball model that we don't live on.
Nathan.
You're begging the question, and also you're accusing me of doing what you
Sorry,
do.
what question am I begging?
Mainstream
Sorry,
media
I
propaganda
don't understand.
tactic.
Don't understand. What am I begging?
And-
What question am I begging, P? I don't think you.
I
even
don't
understand
deny.
that
I don't
fallacy.
deny anything.
What question am I begging? You said you're begging the question.
You deny all the evidence, not me.
You're just rumpusing
So
and throwing
the
out
question you're
nonsense,
begging
scattergun.
is, you're assuming that this should not be seen, and you haven't.
It is
demonstrated
seen,
it.
you moron. Can you not see it?
It's
Are you
called begging
stupid?
the question, and it's an
Are you stupid? I'm
illogical
not begging the
fallacy.
question. Hold on.
Didn't you
Hands up
know
on the
about
panel who
that
can't see it.
illogical
Hands up.
fallacy? I hear you talk about it all the
you're
time,
a
and
moron.
you do
I'm
it
not
to
begging the
people
question.
all
We
the
do
time.
see it. Hello.
But it's
Hello?
okay for you to beg
Sorry,
the question,
hello?
but no one on
P,
your
just
panel is
rumpusing
allowed
the
to beg the
hangout.
question.
Hello. We do
What?
see it. It is there. I'm not begging any questions. Hands up. Who can't see it? Who can't see it? Anybody? Anybody at all? Everyone can see it, you idiot. So no questions being begged. The question that's begged is that there's a wall in the way, you muppet.
You're assuming that we shouldn't be able to see it. That's called
No.
begging the question.
The model assumes your
No,
ball
you haven't
Earth model.
demonstrated
Oh, you see, he
that.
doesn't like the
That's the whole
clarification.
point.
He's got to rumpus it. So for the audience only, while P has a little conniption fit in the background. The ball model, if you believe you live on a model, the spherical heliocentric ball model, the one that we're here debating, says we shouldn't see this lighthouse. There's a wall in the way. Now, we've demonstrated that on multiple occasions, debated it on hundreds of debates. P, having had it concisely demonstrated it yesterday over the course of about 10 minutes, is now denying that fact and claiming that we're begging the question by just having a little look at it and just seeing it right there. No, P. The only thing that says we shouldn't see it is your stupid ball model, for anybody that thinks they live on a globe. That's the only thing that begs any questions. That's the only thing that says we shouldn't see it. That's bollocks, though, because we do see it. There it is. You see it, Muppet? Can you see it? Because it shouldn't be there if you think you're on a ball, as we showed you yesterday. Maybe you can obfuscate it and tell us how we didn't demonstrate anything again.
Nathan, I think what's actually happening is that Pete's rebrandishing what the position was yesterday in some way to try and either make you look bad or him look better. It's not about what he's arguing. It's about what he's basically the way he's trying to present things. He's packaging it up with gloss like cherries on top. And really, he got his ass kicked yesterday. Like UKPI got his ass kicked before. But UKPI was doing the same thing, rebranding something that was basically Miles is doing a hand wave dismissal as like debunking me. Well, P's just basically doing the same thing. He got his ass kicked yesterday, but he's claiming that you were in some way wrong. But he's just repackaging what happened yesterday. That's all that's happening here.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you want to catch the uncut show, be sure to tune in after the end of the next live show, where my second channel, Nathan Oakley, will rebroadcast this stream along with the pre-show. So tune into that on Nathan Oakley channel. Link is in the info box. Once again, a massive thank you to all who tuned in and shared. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!